Hi, I'm Ken Colburn. I'm founder and CEO of Data Doctors. We're a technology specialty firm that provides service to consumers and small businesses with a specialty in data recovery. So if you're a long-time Apple customer and you have lots of music that you've either purchased or let's say you transferred it from CDs years ago and you built this tremendous library, and Apple's gone through various versions of their music service, and as they transition from service to service, that's where most people are having a problem because they're handling the music and the playlists and what have you in different ways. So the biggest complaint is that you aren't necessarily going to lose your music, but you may have to re-download them. Oftentimes what will end up happening is things like playlists and ratings and all that little, all those things that you've done to really personalize your music collection can get lost as you transition from service to service, and it's not uncommon. So Apple's perspective on this is that the music itself is there. They're not really putting a lot of credibility or credence into the complaints when we talk about playlists and ratings and all these things that we do to personalize this music. Playlists are especially important, especially if you built lots of them for different genres. Maybe you're having pool parties, backyard gatherings, whatever it is. You spent this time to put together these playlists and to reproduce that, especially if you have tens of thousands of songs and hundreds of playlists, it's a big pain. And I think the folks at Apple don't really necessarily understand that part of it. It's kind of the nuances. It's the secondary component of your music library. But it's kind of like an insurance company saying, hey, we gave you your house back. What do you mean you want all your furniture in the right place?
It struck me that as a service that would protect my iTunes library. I've always thought of my iTunes library as being something that was very secure because it's by Apple. So I was thinking that it was adding a layer of security to my music library, and unfortunately it did the complete opposite. It's taken me 20 years to compile this music library, which contains over 8,000 songs. And out of the 8,000 songs, there may be a couple hundred that you can actually play mixed in. See, so it's saying that there's 5,000 duplicates. Parts are still there, but you can't use any of them because they're in a big pile. And basically, that's what's happened to my music library. I can see it, the parts are still there, but I can't use it. Well, you see, you can rate a track, right? Mm-hmm. So if I like this track here, I can rate it on anywhere from 1 to 4 stars, or 5. Like I've rated all of these tracks. This is something that takes years to do, to give each one a rating, and this rating is basically an outdated version, which it replaced. It's a disaster.
But it's completely understandable why Paul is upset with Apple in that he spent years compiling this music library, and more importantly, all of the information about the music library, the ratings, the playlists. These are not small things. These are not very easy to replicate. And unfortunately, because those playlists are pointing at music that is no longer there, reconstructing that is a bit of a pain. Generally speaking, you got to start over the way that Apple is approaching this, which is not a good thing. In some cases, you might be able to take the playlist, and it takes a little extra understanding of how these things are put together. But you might be able to go in there and manually change where the playlist is looking to find the music. That's essentially where the problem starts, is when a playlist specifically points at an area of the computer where the music used to be, and if that music gets moved, then the playlist is no longer valid. In some cases, you can reconstruct the playlist and repoint the pointers themselves where it looks for the music. Sometimes you can kind of repair that in the playlists and get them to work again. So what we can all learn from this is if you do have an extensive music collection and you're going to switch services, even within, going from one Apple service to another, the likelihood of you getting everything exactly the way it was before is pretty low. There's always going to be something missing. So you have to be good with that. You have to understand that's a risk. I'm going to go to this new music service and I may lose my playlist. If you're one of those people that has 2 or 3 playlists, you say, no big deal, I don't care. But if you're like Paul and you've spent a lot of time really getting your music collection just the way you want it, creating a backup that you can go back to which may take a little bit of extra work, but making sure that you have a way to go back to the way it was, exactly the way it was before you make the change, that's a good thing to do for people that have invested this much time and effort into their music libraries. Apple's perspective is that you have music you want to listen to, we're giving you access to that music, and that's where they're basically stopping their consideration of what works and what doesn't work. For somebody that's into music like Paul, those playlists, those ratings, all that stuff that you've done to your music library, that's just as important as the music, because if you can't easily access your R&B playlists, you know, it's almost like with 20 or 30,000 songs, you have to have these playlists to make use of your music library. They're critically important parts of music libraries. So, you know, again, Apple doesn't want to take liability for those extra issues. It's like all, you know, it's like those accessories, those things that you've done. If you get a brand new computer, everybody's experienced this, you get a brand new computer, nothing is where it used to be. And that's very disconcerting. You got to go and basically recreate all of the settings and your wallpaper and your desktop and all these things, and it's very problematic for some people. And in this case, you know, trying to reconstruct years and years worth of work manually, I can understand why Paul's upset.
Apple declined comment for this story, but a company spokeswoman did provide links to Apple support forums on the issue. We have posted those for you on the Call Christina page of local10.com. In the newsroom, Christina Vasquez, Local 10 News.